Right, okay, I think we'll get cracking. We've got some really interesting speakers this morning. So we've always got interesting speakers. I don't know why I said that, but we've got some really interesting speakers this morning. We've made it to December, folk. It's nearly the Christmas holidays. We've got one more of these meetings, obviously, today to go, and we'll see you all again in January. This morning, we've got Philip from QinetiQ is going to talk to us about the Innovation Centre. Kate from Solent LEP is going to talk to us because we helped to fund that. She's going to talk a little bit about funding that the Solent LEP has made towards maritime projects in the area, and also about a current fund that is open. So we'll have a bit of a conversation about that. We've got Nikki with us again from the LEP, who wants to talk to you about peer-to-peer networks and how that's been working, and what we'd like to set up in the new year. And then we've got Andy and Joe that are both here from the Solent MEZ, who are going to give us a bit of their new faces, fresh new faces into the Solent MEZ. And they're going to give us a bit of an update as to the activity that's going on currently and what they've got planned for the future. And then we'll round up, agree the date of the next meeting, and sing some Christmas songs. Then we'll go. We're not really going to sing Christmas songs, and then we'll go. So I think we'll probably just get started. So Philip, you're the first one on the agenda. I don't know if you were planning to share your screen or whether you were just going to chat to us, but it's over to you.
Yeah.
We can see that.
You can hear me, right? I've got. Yeah. So yes. Will, you have kindly you're going to be on the slides for me, so thank you for doing that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Holmes. I'm a senior estates surveyor with QinetiQ, and really the reason that Kate and Lorna kindly asked me to speak today is just to give you a bit of an update and a briefing on the new Innovation and Collaboration Hub at Portsdown Technology Park. In terms of just to start from the real estate team, just to give you a taste for what we do, we are the in-house team that provides strategic advice to the board and to QinetiQ on their property assets, and of course, bearing in mind the history of QinetiQ, there it does have a lot of property assets that need to be managed, and some and obviously legacy MOD properties. Our main activity is obviously QinetiQ Technology Park, where we have 114 tenants with a rent roll of 7 million. So it is a lot of activity that we have as a real estate team. Not only do we do that, we look after provide advice and due diligence where the business is acquiring property, and we do basic asset management for the estates, which generates a substantial amount of income for the business. The photo here just gives you a taste. This is the Innovation and Collaboration Hub, which I'm going to talk to you about. But to start, I'd just like to go a little bit top down, because I'd like just to sort of go through why the hub was actually developed. So Will, would you go to the next slide, please? So really just as a slide I've taken from one of our presentation documents, and this gives us a very high level taste of what and information of what QinetiQ actually does. Clearly on the south coast, the main focus is on the maritime system, but of course QinetiQ also has the LTP agreement, which you can see on the left hand side, which is where QinetiQ manages a significant number of MOD assets across the country. From Boscombe down up to a number around in Scotland. In Malvern, obviously their activity is on the cyber and have a lot of involvement with the cyber security of the government. And of course, on the other side, where there's a lot of disruptive innovation activities with various parts with creating new products in various areas of the security and defence industry. And of course, at the bottom, we're looking at global expansion, particularly in America and Australia, and acquiring to create growth through various acquisitions, one of which is detailed there, which is Newman Spur, who are a training company, but who have now moved into our facility at Cody. Next slide. These slides don't do justice for Portsdown, but just to give you a taste, QinetiQ runs Portsdown. It has, obviously, in the photo you'll see in the top left is the BAE Systems facility, and the main activity is providing advice to the Royal Navy and the software and investment in software facilities for the Royal Navy on this park. But however, on the south coast we have other parks, so it's not just Portsdown that we're talking about. Next slide. Haslam Marine Technology Park is where the majority of the advice under the MSCA, which is the Maritime Strategic Capability Agreement, is undertaken. You can see on the slides that there is we've got the ocean basin, which provides model testing. There's the towing tank, which provides the testing of the ships, and there are two at Haslam, the one that's currently in operation and the original one that's now office space. And the MSCA is currently going through a bidding process with the MOD, and the bid is trying to be as innovative and creative as possible in order to generate new employment opportunities on the south coast. It's looking to create collaboration opportunities with local business, and is also creating opportunities for graduate apprentice work and job placements. In Funtington, of course, the man with is in the photo is in the anechoic chamber, which is testing the RF antennas, and that's situated in a 39-acre site in West Sussex. And so the combination of what we do at Portsdown, what we do at Haslam, what we do at Funtington, amongst the other parts and the facilities that QinetiQ has across the land, has really culminated in the new development that I'm about to talk to you about. Next slide, please, Will. So at Portsdown Technology Park, about a few years ago, the decision was made in working with the MOD to regenerate the part of the park and to create a new facility in order to improve the offer and the capability that is provided to the Navy. The National Maritime Systems Centre was developed and it was completed in September 20. And as you can see, and the reason why I'm here is because obviously the LEP provided funding. The funding for this was obviously to create, as part of the NMSC, a building called the ICH, the Innovation Collaboration Hub. And what the NMSC and the ICH now create is the home for the facilities that currently exist at PTP, such as the shore integration facility and facilities for collaboration work with BAE Systems and the Navy. And there's a slow migration process from the existing facilities at PTP, which are coming to end of life, into the new facility. And that migration process is a 3-year program. And at the end of the 3 years, the existing facilities will eventually be will be demolished, and hopefully we'll be looking at new developments in the future. However, the ICH is what we're focusing on, and that is my role. My role is to identify tenants and occupiers for the building. And as part of the funding agreement with the LEP, that we are looking to identify SME businesses in the region that's where we can create business and collaboration opportunities that are reciprocal between QinetiQ and our partner businesses on the park. So we've now, marketing campaign is working hard, and it's been successful in so far identifying 2 SME businesses, both of which we have now taken occupation, and fingers crossed the other one will take occupation very soon. And that work is being done with our marketing agents, and the focus is very different to how we normally find tenants. What we want to do is find tenants that sit in the defence and maritime industry who will see the opportunity to come place themselves at PTP to work with QinetiQ and work with our partners on the park to create these reciprocal opportunities. And it's really important to the business and really important to the local management team that is created and that's identified. Next slide. just a taste of some photos of this new building, which was, as I say, completed in September 20, and in a it was planned to complete in June 20, but despite COVID, and it was only 3 months overdue, despite the shutdown and the issues that we had during the lockdown. And it's a special building, and if anybody wants to come and meet up there and have a cup of tea with me, you're more than welcome. The building on the top left is the main entrance to the facility, and that takes you into the reception area, and you can see the two images of the landing and reception. We have a full auditorium, and as well as a restaurant facility. Incidentally, these photos were taken in September 20 before it was fitted out, so that's why it's looking not looking particularly full up. We have an atrium which is in the bottom left, which is where we can create opportunities for businesses to come together and work together and then we have other collaboration areas within the building. The main focus, however, is the office space, and if we can just go to the next slide. And this is the space that we have been successful in leasing space, but what we just want to talk about is the fact that we have Raytheon on site, Royal Navy neighbouring us, BAE Systems, who are expanding on the site by who are currently building a new 9,000 square foot office facility. Of course, QinetiQ and our new tenant, Serious Analysis, who recently joined us. Our second one due to complete, and I don't tempt fate by putting their details onto by making it public until they signed on the dotted line, but they are due to join us anytime. Next slide. In terms of the accommodation, we have one floor left, which, in order to achieve our objective of 3 SMEs, we'll be looking at the options of splitting it when we identify potential occupiers. The floor sits on the top floor, and you can see that it's got this, it is easily divisible with the light well that sits in the middle that creates natural lighting all the way through the space. And you can see that we've been successful in letting the second floor and the ground and first floors to other tenants. Next slide, please. Just to give you a feel of what else we can offer on the site is that this is a photo of the terrace that sits by the restaurant. This wasn't taken today, by the way. This was taken in the summer, but it's a really nice location, again, for that whole piece about working together and collaborating. And this roof terrace is obviously spectacular, probably the best views on the south coast over the South Downs towards Fareham, and over towards Fareham, and Butser Hill direction, which is and of course in the opposite direction, looking over Portsmouth Harbour. We also have the restaurant, and we have the gym. We have meeting rooms which are fully fitted out, and an auditorium which sits at which we can make available to occupiers at a cost, but they're all available as part of the offer to our tenants. Next slide, please. So I just finish off with a slide of one of the nice things about working in this place. This is one of the meeting rooms, and what we offer is exactly this. We offer a high quality, state-of-the-art office facility. We offer high quality meeting rooms. We offer opportunities for the occupiers to work with QinetiQ and other key occupiers in the defence industry, and we offer nice views. So that was me. Hopefully that was of interest. I don't know how we are doing for time, Lorna, but I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
We're absolutely fine for time, actually. So I don't know if anyone in the room has any questions about the. I wish that was the view from my office. My goodness me, that's incredible, isn't it?
Lorna, this is Brett from Forley.
Oh, hello.
Philip, good morning. Love the jumper, and yeah, happy to join into the event after Christmas with some sea shanties. But Philip, thank you very much. I've sent you a text to say, perhaps Aldred and I can come over and see you at some time, and we'll do the same and reciprocate and invite you to Forley Waterside. because I think there's some definite synergy there. So I've sent you my email address. I also asked Will on the text if you're going to be sharing the slide deck, but thanks very much, Philip, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
No problem. It was always the intention of this group that, in fact, we would meet physically in the same space eventually, and you know, go on tour really, and come to some of your sites. But I've got QinetiQ is on the list, Philip. When that's allowed, we'll come for a little trip out and have our coffee on the viewing deck, shall we?
Well, we better pick our days, but definitely we can that can be arranged. Absolutely.
Incredible. And I can't see any other hands up. Are there any other questions? Anyone else? I mean, the skyline as you're driving in or out of Portsmouth with Portsdown Hill is so iconic, isn't it? But isn't it wonderful to see that there's new building up there as well? And sorry, you didn't call it the Innovation Centre. It's Technology Park. Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Superb, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, the view as you climb up Solent Hill come from Fareham direction is very special. You can't see it from the other side, and I think that's part of the design, but certainly the landscape will change as the buildings that sit on the top of the hill as you see it from the M27 will change as the buildings come down.
Wonderful. Well, maybe we can have you back later on next year once you've got a few more tenants
I look forward to that, and
on site, and then we can all have a better understanding of what the range of industry, really, the range of businesses that are up there. Yeah. So if there's no further questions, if I can hand over to Kate.
Lorna, can I chuck one in quickly?
Oh yes,
sorry.
Of course. Yes,
apologies.
Go for it.
Sorry, it was a great presentation, and thank you. And can I say particularly gratitude that in this photograph here, because I tend to cycle across that landscape, you can't see me in Lycra, so that's a definite advantage. You may not want to mention that, Philip, in the advertising. Can I ask a sort of slightly it's a slightly two-sided question, I guess. In terms of your letting, what are the extras that you are particularly bringing that makes it a technology park rather than just normal offices? Does that come with a higher cost, or, and this is the other side of it, is it actually the case that anybody that wanted office space with great views and great accommodation could come here?
Okay, so
that makes sense. Sorry,
it does make sense. In terms of your first question, the offices are fitted out as offices, and however, we have within the gift of our planning consent to use a space for alternative purposes, so for lab space or for testing areas and such like. And indeed, our tenant on one of the floors has turned some of the space into testing areas. So there is that level of use. I think the second part of that first question linked in with the second, because we're reluctant, or the business is reluctant to, of course, lease the space to any tenants, and I think that's partially because of the fact that the business will not generate any upside, any collaboration, any opportunities to generate business opportunities from a non-defence, completely different tenant from a completely different background. But also, it's also on the flip side, a conventional tenant probably wouldn't want to come to PTP when there's plenty of supply of suitable space elsewhere, such as Lakeside North Harbour, which is a more conventional park. It is at the top of the hill. You have to go through a security process. Your staff have to be security cleared, and if you're having regular visitors, they all have to be booked in advance at the gate. So that it's not for everybody there. So there will be almost a process of natural filtering to the type of tenant we want to get who will need that facility particularly if they're looking to secure an NOD accreditation such as List X or above, where they can do that easily at PTP. It's not to say you can't do it anywhere else, but it's much easier at PTP with the infrastructure already in place externally. But I think so the LEP are looking for SMEs. The business is looking for companies in the defence industry, And as part of the vetting and the process to identify tenants, we run them past the business, and we have an interview with the tenants and the business to key people in the business to ensure that both parties are happy with the opportunities that they think there are, and make sure they are actually there. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, it's incredibly clear. So just as a quick supplemental, apologies Laura if it's allowed, are you looking at pure defence or MOD type industries, or ones that might be hybrid, that might do, you know, an aviation business which is partly defence sector, partly civil business?
Happy to talk to those sorts of people. We know, if you can imagine a pie chart, you can imagine the whole pie chart as the current marketplace for office occupiers. We're probably 3% of that pie chart. So we can't be, so we do need to be very focused on the occupiers and not reduce that pie chart, that percentage anymore. So yes, we are very keen to talk to people who will have a link with defence, because obviously QinetiQ could obviously be looking at businesses outside the defence industry. I'm sure that as part of the business plan at the upper echelons, they're looking at ways of diversifying their business by talking to businesses outside the defence. So absolutely, but I think the main focus is what opportunities there are for our new tenants who are on the park, and that is mainly defence and maritime. But happy to talk to anyone who has that link and has some sort of link with the defence industry, internal or external, defence or not.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
you've got another question in the chat, Philip, which is from Jade Davis, who's asking if tenants could potentially be from leisure marine, but I suspect you've just answered that question.
Happy to talk. Drop me a line and we'll have a chat about it.
There you go. Anybody else got any questions? No, I think we're good. Okay, Philip, that was really interesting. Thank you. Really exciting. And as I said, sort of when confidentiality allows, perhaps, and you've got a higher level of occupancy, we could have a chat about the different businesses that are there, so we can better understand the scope. But absolutely terrific. What an extraordinary building. Thank you. Thank you. So if I can go over to our Kate, please, from Solent LEP. Are you there, Kate? I can see you, but I don't know if you've frozen. Are you there, Kate? Philip, could I ask you?
Oh, no, I know Kate was having some major problems.
Okay. Philip, if I could ask you to, or will rather, to stop sharing the screen. Perfect. Kate, are you with us? Are you? Oh, she appears to be frozen. Okay, we'll come back to that one later then. Nikki, you're having connectivity problems as well a bit this morning, aren't you? I can hear you, but I can't see.
Yeah.
There you are. Oh dear, this is going well.
Yeah, okay. I'm having some major.
Yeah, we're only hearing about one in every 3 words, I'm afraid, Nikki. So what I'm going to propose is that we skip ahead on the agenda, and Joe and Andy from the MEZ, if you're ready, can we go to you?
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah, not a problem at all. Good morning. My name's Joe Johnson. I work with the MEZ with my colleague, Andy Parkins.
Lorna, can you hear me?
Nikki, we'll come back to you later on in the meeting, if that's okay. Right, sorry, Joe, crack on, that's fine.
Okay, no worries. So as I was saying, myself and my colleague, Andy Parkin, work for the Solent Maritime Enterprise Zone. As Lorna pointed out, we've been in the role now for about somewhere close to 2 months. So just getting our feet under the table. I am the lead for the skills theme, and Andy is the lead for the innovations themes. So we're going to play a bit of tag between ourselves as we go through the presentation. But just to give you a flavour of the kinds of thing that the MEZ is looking at, both in the skills and the innovation arenas, and to give you a flavour of where we hope to be going. So the Solent MEZ, consider it to be an umbrella organisation. It was set up in December 2019 by the second Sea Lord, who was keen to get an arena where the Navy could connect, collaborate and deliver, is our mantra, with both academia and civil partners, SMEs, to further the interests of both the Navy and SMEs as well in a collaborative environment. We use the Inspire agenda to take us forward, which is on your screen now. So Inspire is all about innovation and technology, which Andy will talk to in a moment. Skills, careers and apprenticeships is where I come in, looking at primarily what skills needs are going to be required for the future. One of our themes at the moment is looking at aluminium boat building. There are some issues there currently and in the future, but it's also to do with carbon free, carbon neutral, and how we get to there. What will the skills be required in the future that we're not training for now that we should be? Hopefully this will lead to prosperity and growth within the area. That's ultimately the aim, is to make sure that the Solent as a whole is prosperous and continues to grow. We also have a desire to look at the infrastructure that we have within the MOD, which is now being given up. For example, Fort Blockhouse is just about to come off the books of the MOD. So what do we do with that space? Is there a way that we can get SMEs or AEMs in to occupy the space to develop themselves and also develop for the region? We're also keen to engage with research and academia to look at ways in which research can assist with identifying skills or innovations which can be taken forward for the benefit of all. And then this all leads towards an enterprise approach. So it's all about being collaborative, working with partners, identifying partners, bringing them into the fold, getting them to be active within the fold so that we can take our agenda forward. Just waiting for the next slide. Andy, do you want to take up on this?
Will do. Thank you, Joe. Really good to hear that conversation a moment ago. Philip talking about the ICE and Brett coming in there in terms of, the cluster approach to things. So we'll talk about that a little bit here. I mean, it's a prime way to get an attractive environment, get large and small businesses, academia, government together, and clusters create a critical mass of expertise. And as we know, the beauty of that is that that drives innovation. And as innovation gets driven, then you'll also attract new talent who are innovators as well. So you get that kind of happy effect going. The primary focus for Joe and I is very much the Solent region. And if I just pick up on the left-hand side of this slide on a couple of points there. People we deal with, for example, the Southampton National Oceanographic Centre, the NOC, which will be familiar to many of you. I'll speak more of that on the next slide. Catapults, we're currently working actively with the Satellite Applications Catapult on a connected autonomous maritime project, and I'll also speak to that. And with the Connected Places Catapult on a relatively new project called the Solent Maritime Innovation Gateway, or the MIG, and I'll come on to that in some detail in a moment. We deal with Innovate UK, of course, Knowledge Transfer Network. They promoted the Clean Maritime competition, and our region did really well, half a dozen successful funded bids from that. And it could be that decarbonisation could become a USP for the region, and it seems as a sort of an opportunity to take a lead in that. So we're looking at that carefully. And of course, the universities of Southampton, Portsmouth, Solent University, the SMMI, all those academic and research organisations, and their research base has got such a strong track record that it's creating opportunities, but equally importantly, as Joe will speak to in a moment, it's generating a lot of talent in the area as well, which we need to keep here in engineering, digital, clean tech, advanced manufacturing, etc. Other members of our team, the MEZ team, also work at the national level, and you can see the chart on the right there obviously shows some of the key other clusters that are around the UK. If I pick up on a couple of those that we're particularly interested in, what we're looking to do here is to take learnings from Solent region and actually see if there's synergies elsewhere, and equally to attract investment into the Solent, of course, with that, but also to see if there's stuff going on elsewhere that we could learn from. So this is a growing activity for a couple of our team at the moment. If I look at that, Maritime Enterprise Scotland, the Scottish Maritime Cluster in the north, and up with Aberdeen as well. Our Navy colleagues, there's actually some Navy people working on that as well, major contributors to that. And obviously up there, the ship design, offshore energy, and in Aberdeen, the support to the offshore oil and gas industry. The MEZ cluster is actually very active and very interesting. The University of Liverpool reached out to us, and we've had conversations with them. That you may know they've also got a NOC, and they've got organisations working on decarbonisation, smart ports, digitisation, Port City Innovation Hub, and of course a free port. So there's a lot of very similar activity going on, MEZ, that we're seeing down here as well. No doubt you're all involved in. Southwest is very active, I have to say, very good at publicising what they do, and there's lessons to learn from that, I think. But we're collaborating with them to look to join up that South Coast, and I'll speak a little bit to that, the 5G project in a minute. If we move on to the next slide, please, Joe. So if we look at some of the initiatives that the Solent MEZ is involved with at the moment, I'll pick on 3 of the 4 there. Connected and Autonomous Maritime, sponsored by the UK Space Agency, and we're organising in collaboration with the Space Applications Catapult, opportunity to establish a connected Solent using a mesh of 5G nodes. Initially, this has been set up to support testing and trialling in the region for autonomous surface vehicles. And you can see on that map on the right where some of those 5G nodes could be, sort of 10-mile ranges there, which would get you good coverage across the Solent, starting out actually with the Isle of Wight from Cowes, and then which was where the activity was initially came from. And that experimentation would then move on to hopefully spreading down, as I said a moment ago, down across the coast, connecting up with 5G Rural Dorset initiative, which is actually seems to be going very well, and Plymouth Smart Sound as well. I mean, the key here is that we're looking to get the adoption of uncrewed vessels to help to decarbonise and move towards net zero. Vessels are the most environmentally friendly way to move large quantities of goods around, as you'd be aware. Second on there is the Cybotics collaboration between the Royal Navy, the NOC, and a small enterprise called Seabot XR. And they presented in a previous meeting, I think the last but one, Lorna. This facility, Cybotics, was launched at the Maritime Autonomous Systems Conference at the NOC in November. It'll focus on marine robotics, which is for operational development and assurance of synthetic environments, and maritime autonomous systems as a service. And that is where they'll allow for test and development, mission rehearsal in some of their water sites. I think they've got 5 of those sites. And so they've got this technical capacity to move us towards autonomous vehicles and robotics. But they're also, more significantly, got some news on apprenticeships, which Joe will speak to in a moment. And finally, on this slide, to look at the bottom, there's Solent Maritime Innovation Gateway. The idea is here to build a one-stop shop to join up and promote innovation across the region. I mean, everyone says, and we can hear here, that great things are happening, but we need to make it clear to potential investors, nationally and internationally, and to each other, so that we get this synergy. Importantly, we're going to hold a workshop on the 20th of January. It'll be an online workshop, of course, now. And we invite you to be a part of that. I don't know, Will, if you can post a link to the invitation for that MIG workshop into the chat. If you can't, then perhaps we can email it out afterwards, Lorna, I don't know. But it would be great to invite everyone here. It won't be a limitless capacity because it's online. We're going to have to put people into chat rooms and all that kind of thing. But we do want a cross-section, a broad cross-section of people applying for that, so that we get particularly the voice of small business, but also leisure, New Forest represented, as much as heavy defence or academia as well. So do feel free to step in and put an application forward for the 20th of January. If we move on to the next slide, please, Joe. So there's a bit more detail on that initiative, the Solent Maritime Innovation Gateway, the MIG. It was launched at London International Shipping Week in September, and possibly several of you attended that and saw it. It's a collaboration between the Solent MEZ ourselves, Maritime UK Solent, and the Connected Places Catapult, who are doing a lot of the technical work on it. The idea is it'll be a delivery vehicle for innovation and research objectives of the MEZ, and it'll showcase the region's USP. So as I say, it'll attract investors into the region and also collaboration with other areas. The initial delivery is through a Connected Places Catapult project. And if you look at the right-hand side of this slide, there's currently 3 phases planned. We're in the first phase I've just mentioned, which is workshops to map the ecosystem and then develop a mission statement bottom up, so that all of us feel bought into it. Phase 2 is the market and investment opportunity. So sort of getting just beyond Q1 into Q2 next year, the team will be working on a specific statement of the of what the market map is like, and what's in it for investors nationally and globally. Phase 3, not fully formed up yet. We might go for use cases into particular technologies in the region, and/or it could well be the development of an online facility, so portal, website, catalog, landscape map, and investment opportunities as well. But that's something that we want to come out of the workshop itself. People probably want online facility, but it's not for us to judge that top down yet. So again, that participation would be really important. And over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Andy. Just to take a look at what initiatives we're looking at with the skills, careers and apprenticeships. As Andy mentioned, there's a level 5 qualification apprenticeship just been approved and has achieved national occupational standard through Subotics, which is looking at uncrewed operator maintainer qualifications. That has now been approved by IFAT, is on the books, and the first course will be delivered next month, we can say now, January next year. So that's a success. It's been driven by the Navy, by the OEM, by the SME, and has gone through all the processes now and is physically on the books and has been looked at by other areas to be delivered within their area. There is, whenever you talk to people, and I'm sure many people here will realize that there is an age problem within the workforce. The workforce is aging. The question is, how do we attract young, ambitious people into the industry? And more importantly, how do we keep them in the industry for the whole of their career? Part of that is where large employers are actively seeking to take on apprentices, but for every apprentice place that they have, they probably receive 5 or 6 applications. They can't take all those people. So there is an apprenticeship clearing hub, which has been set up, pretty similar to UCAS, really, where employers are not able to offer apprentices a place, they will go into the clearing hub pot, where other employers can be made aware that they're there, and then hopefully they will interview them and take them on that way. It seems a shame to be able to waste people who are keen just because they don't get their first employer of choice. They should be given other options, and that's on the books now and has been delivered already. A bid was put in for a national skills academy for maritime, including shipbuilding. Unfortunately, that didn't get government approval this time, but we're still going around the board there to work up a new proposal to get it put in. Part of that and a case study that we're developing, last evening, we held the first meeting of a working group, which is specifically looking at aluminium boat building. There are issues there with a lack of welders in the industry, so it was a collaboration between boatyards and also training colleges, technical colleges, to sit down and work out what the gaps are in the current qualifications that are available and where it may be developed. And we're looking at creating a thing called a fabricator welder qualification specific for boat building, but particular to aluminium boat building. It's an 18-month process to get something onto the books, but as part of the career profile, a level 2 qualification will develop, then a level 3 qualification, which will give a young person clear guidance and knowledge of where a career could lead within boat building. And finally, an Institute of Technology bid has been made for the area. Those interviews were held last week. They appear to have gone well, and hopefully a decision on whether the application has been accepted will be made by the DFE prior to Christmas. So that just gives a flavour of the things that have been looked at within the skills and apprenticeship arena. Slightly over, but we're happy to take any questions that there may be. That's all the information that was put up there.
Yeah, sorry, this is Brett again. Do apologise. As you know, we're close to you guys. We've yet to meet Joe and Andy. I sent you a note to suggest that we, have a Teams call, get Paul possibly outed on the phone in the new year. Yeah, very much aware of the event on the 20th, but happy to meet you both.
Yeah, Brett,
yep.
it would be great to get across and see you as well. Obvious restrictions permitting, but yeah, Paul has kept us abreast of
yeah.
I'm
aware of that. I couldn't join the last call, so we're very thin on the ground, as Lorna knows, but we're punching above our weight. Very happy to welcome you both, and certainly kind of welcome on board the MEZ anyway, guys, and part of the group, and look forward to seeing you both soon. And should we not speak, happy Christmas, but let's hook up in the new year.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Any
Welcome.
other questions for anybody? Not seeing any hands up. You've obviously stunned them into silence, Joe and Andy, but it's lovely to see a summary. It's really, with my careers background, it's really interesting to hear you talking about welding, because we have an issue with getting young people and job seekers excited about that sort of career and understanding the opportunities that it can lead to. I mean, the other hat that I wear, the Maritime UK careers program that I run nationally, that's one of our challenges, is just getting young people to understand how exciting that sort of work can be compared to games design, for example. You can play on a computer game and you can have all the weapons and all the rest of it, or you could be an actual welder. And I know from in my previous role, when I was still working at Eastleigh College, I visited a boat builder down near St Mary's, and I was allowed into the dry dock kind of warehouse to see this super yacht. I'll not bore you with the details as to why I was there, but before I did this job, and it was my first sort of visit onto a boat building site. And I was absolutely gobsmacked by the number of people that were working and the number of people that were welding at the same time, actually. And it was all top secret, that particular project, and you had your thumbprint read to get into the workshop and all the rest of it. But I just think there's work to be done, whether it's virtual tours and videos actually showing people doing that sort of work and us sharing that with schools and colleges to get young people excited about it.
One of the strands that came out from the meeting yesterday was this career mapping to go forward. Yes. And CMAST have done a similar evolution in the construction industry. So what we're going to use that template, send it out to the employers and say, you need to tell us where you think the career path would go and give us ideas of scale of how long it would take to get up the ladder, as well as the wages that are associated with the various stages. That should start to address the issue of there is no clear pathway to go through. And that should be not necessarily a quick fix, but certainly something which could be done in the more short to medium term. Question from Charles Hardy there. Charles, thank you for your question. Not aware of anything in composite timber engineering structures. I've just bashed in my email address. If you care to drop me an email, Charles, with some particulars, I'll get back to you and let you know where we may be able to help or where we might be able to take it forward. But an interesting question. Thank you.
I think the career mapping thing is really interesting, and I know it's been attempted. There is a version of a maritime sector careers map that the Merchant Navy Training Board pulled together last year. It concentrates more on seafarers and what happens on the water and transferring onto the shore and the kind of jobs that can lead to. There's two different ways of looking at it. You can talk to the employers and ask them about the progression opportunities within their own organisations. Or another, because I've had a couple of conversations with this about people over the last week, funnily enough, but I kind of looking at the qualifications and seeing where that leads to, and taking the available qualifications across our, let's say we took all the available qualifications across the FE stage of young people's education, and you start with the qualifications that exist, but then talk to local employers about which jobs those qualifications provide the entry requirements for, and kind of start with what you can either go to the employers and say, tell us what all your different job roles are and tell us what the entry requirements are for that. But that would be a huge job, even if we only did it in Solent. I've had people asking for the same nationally, and to list all the job roles in the maritime sector nationally. I mean, I know, how do you eat an elephant? You cut it up into small chunks, but that is almost too big to even imagine. So I think if you started with the framework of the qualifications that are available and then matched that to employers and said, what does that give you entry requirements to? That would be a start. And then you've got the sort of lifelong learning aspect of upskilling, and employers, and it's not maritime, but built environment is an example that always springs into my mind when I think about this. So built environment is a sort of an applied construction management course that you can do at college. And what happened was that Eastleigh also ran the level 4, the HNC, I think. It's been a couple of years. Anyway, they also ran the level 4. But what you didn't get was natural progression from a full-time course on level 3 into working and doing the level 4 as it was your next step, but there was a period of time between the two. What happened in practice was that these people got that qualification. Some went to university, some went out into industry. And those that went out into industry generally came back to do the level 4, but 18 months, 2 years hence. Once they'd started with the employer, and once the employer had them on their succession planning and they were looking at what they could do and wanted to invest in that person, then they would contact the college again and say, right, we want to fund this person to do the next level of the qualification. So it's not a really clear or formal timeline. That doesn't mean that the level 3 doesn't lead to the level 4, but there's a gap. Am I talking absolute nonsense, or does that make sense? So you need to look at what the qualifications are as they are leaving full-time education at whatever level that is, and where that maps with what the employers are looking for in entry requirements. That'll identify what's missing, which hopefully is exactly what the IoT would be looking at, because that was all part of those discussions as to the progression. But it's not a small ambition, but it's a fabulous ambition to have careers mapping showing what one qualification can lead to and the sorts of jobs. And it's really important. That was one of my criticisms, actually, of the MNTB one, that there was no wages on that document. And people want to see what doing this qualification can lead to, and then how they can improve their own life outcomes and so on, and how they can progress and earn more money by doing this qualification or that qualification. Sorry, you've got me off onto career stuff, and I get really geeky about that, but really interesting. Any other questions? Jonathan, you've said you had something you wanted to say, an observation rather than a question, I think.
Yeah, Lorna, good morning, and good morning, everybody. I'm a new kid on the block, and many thanks for sort of allowing me into this fantastic forum. I just want to make an observation of, I'm leaving the Navy next year after 32 years, and I'm just observing a real collaboration development. I was early doors with Solent MEZ with Captain Yoop a few years ago, to see the position that this debate is in now, talking about whether it's Seabotics, the level 5 kind of currency, the skills mapping work, the sheer agility in what's being delivered is really pleasing to hear. And I look forward to being part of it in the coming years. And thank you very much for the time today.
No problem. A lovely thing to hear.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? I'm not seeing any other hands up, but I find it a bit tricky to keep on top of that. Okay, I think we'll go back to our two lovely ladies from the LEP who will do it in order, but both having connection problems this morning. I'm not sure if it's a LEP thing or what it is, but Kate, can we come to you first, please? So this is just.
Can you hear me this time?
We can, and see you,
Wonderful. This is the wonder of our VPN, I think, is not liking Zoom. So I've migrated to my own personal laptop this time, thanks to Will's advice. So Will's sharing my slides for me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kate Cloud. I'm Local Growth Programme Manager at Solent Local Enterprise Partnership. Gosh, trips off the tongue, doesn't it? I was meant to be doing this on the back of Philip's presentation, so cast your mind back to what he was saying about QinetiQ and Portsdown Technology Park, and just to talk a little bit about some of the other projects that we've supported to date as well. So, Will, next slide, please. I'm literally just going to run through things. I'm not going to bore you with too much detail, and anyone can sort of contact me afterwards if they want more detail. Let me start by talking a little bit about the local growth deal. So this is £183 million of funding that the Solent area has been awarded since 2015. We funded around 30 projects with that, and these 5 are just probably the most obvious marine and maritime related projects, what I call the big projects, the big infrastructure projects that we've supported in that time. Together, they create a number of outputs. The key outputs we're generally interested in are housing related and jobs related. For this subject, it's more about jobs. And with these 5 projects, the projects either have or are due to create about 860, 870 jobs throughout the sort of monitoring period. We have a sort of 10-year monitoring period for projects. So throughout that period, which is a real impact on the local economy. You'll also see from the name of the projects up there, the range of things that we fund as well, from skills to construction projects, all the way through to coastal defence schemes. And we don't have a prescribed project that we fund. We really are quite open-minded. Will, if you'd like to move on, please. Also within the local growth deal, we support small and medium-sized enterprise projects as well, clearly for smaller amounts of money. There are too many to list here, so I've just picked out 3 as an example. And just to, again, emphasize the range of projects that we support. So RS Aqua, excuse me, is a marine technology business. They wanted to relocate so that they could expand their premises and create some sort of technical training areas as well. You'll find them down at Port Solent now. We funded them to the tune of about £19,000, £20,000. Red Penguin, a multidisciplinary marine engineering consultancy. Gosh, again, they wanted to expand their business and systems and processes. And actually, there are big links there to what Joe was saying earlier in terms of the skills, and they're really keen on bringing new blood into the sector and really focusing on training and enhancing those skills. And then lastly, just as an example, Selden Masts, and the picture on the left-hand side of the screen there is from Selden Masts. They actually create masts. They wanted to purchase a new machine to increase their productivity and really to increase their impact in their local market as well. So again, a real wide range of projects, and there are many, many more who I've not listed there as well. So amongst those 3 projects, we've funded them from a range of £20,000 through to £75,000, and their match funding has ranged from just under £100,000 through to almost £600,000. So huge differences there, just to show that sort of how flexible we can be. Will, if you'd like to move on, please. More recently, in fact, just last year, we were awarded £16 million of Getting Building Fund, and we've funded 7 projects through that. The purpose of that funding was to support shovel-ready projects who can sort of help with the recovery from the pandemic and the economic impact of the pandemic. I've listed 2 very obviously marine and maritime projects here, but there are others that sort of fall into that net, including the Forley Waterside, the Forley Digital project that we supported as well. Again, jobs is a key focus here. And amongst these 2 projects that we're talking about, 775 jobs. So big impact again to the local economy. Again, I'm not going to go into chapter and verse about all these projects, but you can find out more either on our website or drop me a line. I'll be happy to explain more to anyone who's interested. And then the last slide that I wanted to talk about, Will, if you're happy to move on, please, is just a little bit about our roles and responsibilities as a LEP. So currently the open fund that we have is our Building Back Greener Loan Fund, which is open until the 14th of January for projects between, or loans between £100,000 and £1 million. And we've got a £5 million pot to put towards this. What I really wanted to mention was about the process, though, really just to give anyone who's thinking of bidding for this or other funding that might come from us in the future, or indeed other funding from other funders, just to give you a sense of the sorts of things that we deal with from our end. So of course we design a funding call based on local intelligence and our local strategies and so on. We assess applications, make decisions on those, and once applications are supported, in our case, decisions via our board, we then negotiate a funding agreement with the beneficiary. What I really wanted to focus in on, though, was the sort of monitoring and the monitoring of output side of things. We often see that applicants are tempted to overestimate the outputs that they might be able to produce for their money because it sounds good, doesn't it? It's a good sort of sales pitch. That comes with a health warning. Anything that goes into an application will be decided on by our board, will go into the funding agreement, and we will monitor you against. So just a warning, don't be tempted to overstate what you can achieve. Be honest and upfront, otherwise we can run into difficulties later. Having said that, we are fully aware projects change and grow and policies change, and there are all sorts of different impacts like international pandemics that can affect projects in all sorts of different ways. And of course, we can be responsive to all of that as well. So I really want to just quickly scoot through that, make a couple of key points. Happy to answer any questions, or equally, if you want to go back to the correct order of things, Lorna, then do so.
On mute. Classic, I'm on mute. Kate, I wonder if it's possible to put that link, or Will, to put that link into the chat so that people can access it easily. There was a webinar about the Build Back Greener Fund. Was that recorded? Is that available on the website?
Don't know, we can find out though, and certainly circulate it if it is.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think there's any plans for any further webinars at the moment.
I don't think there are. I think there were 2 webinars which have sort of been and gone now. The time is getting sort of short until the closing date, but I'm sure more information will come about in future should there be further rounds of that funding.
Yeah, that's fine. So 14th of January, yeah? That's
right.
Excellent. So people have got homework to do over Christmas, Kate. Hugh's got his hand up. Oh, Hugh, you're asking lots of questions today. That's brilliant. Over to you.
Well, the old Chinese saying that a fool can ask more questions than a wise man can answer. I want to prove that. Can I ask a slightly left field question, which you may feel is not appropriate for today's discussion? But hearing about all the great things that are going on, what do we think the impact of the government's levelling up agenda as it emerges is going to be on all of this? Is it going to help us, or is it already having any effect, negative or positive, on what's going on? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm just not sure if I can answer it. So clearly,
Okay.
I'm not a wise man, but
a wise woman. That's
a wise
what
woman.
to say.
Stu Baker, who's one of our directors, would be a much better place to answer that. And I'm sure as we learn more about the government's review of LEPs and learn more about the levelling up agenda and so on, I think we will be able to respond to that in due course. We're going through a period of a lot of change at the moment, a lot of upheaval. So I think we're, as an organisation, we're sort of looking around and thinking, right, where does that leave us? That's a very sort of inward look, if you see what I mean. And I think we're always very conscious of what's going on in the economy around us as well. And Stu's very good at keeping on top of that and making sure that we've got the right evidence to support decisions that we're making, for example, the Building Back Greener Fund. So all I can say is we've got a lot of evidence there. We keep looking at it, but I don't have a direct answer for you, I'm afraid, Hugh.
No, that's cool. It's just trying to work out whether the sort of effectively the drift we've got going on that and things like the Freeport being finalised is a problem. I think we probably all want it to get to the end and have certainty. Thanks.
Mark, you've got your hand up.
I just thought I'd help Kate a bit on the levelling up position, because one thing we can say, Hugh, is that obviously the government launched the Levelling Up Fund. So areas were requested to bid for that. I can see Kate putting her thumbs up to bid for that. So that was a slightly different approach. And I think it's fair to say that the government is pushing out has been pushing that out in a slightly different way. So rather than putting it through the LEPs, which was the kind of local growth fund approach, they've started to push it out kind of for people to bid into across the country. Now, that has positives. The big negative is obviously it takes up a lot of resource because it's directed at local authorities. So as a local authority, as Portsmouth City Council, we had to put a lot of resource. We managed to get 20 million for Portsmouth North. So, we're obviously very, very pleased about that because it was incredibly competitive. And we felt that the North and the Northeast and the Northwest and so on in the levelling up, the kind of those constituencies would probably benefit more than the Southeast. But we were able to make a very strong case based on, all the levelling up stuff and the needs of an area like Portsmouth, which is, as you know, more like a northwest city by the coast. And so we were able to make those arguments, even though we didn't do as badly as everybody was expecting. I think overall we actually got about the same amount of money as the Northwest. So it's interesting that the government, although they said it was all about, rearranging things across the country in terms of levelling up, actually it was quite beneficial for the Southeast. So the projects that we got for that is to do a new cruise terminal at Portsmouth Port, which is fantastic, and also to have the longest linear park in the UK, stretching all the way from kind of the port right across to Farlington, and including a complete regeneration of the Hillsey Lido area. So both the Lido, but also leisure and retail and hospitality kind of area there, northern part of Portsmouth. So it's a really exciting project. But we didn't get our levelling up fund bid for the South because those bids were done on a constituency basis. So every MP kind of was involved. MP driven kind of approach than we've ever had before. So we had to work very closely with our local MPs. So we didn't get one for the South and we didn't get our transport bid, which we put in. But obviously there will be another round and we're currently working up projects for that, Hugh, as will other local authorities across the country, because we're expecting another round, which is due to be launched. It was going to be before Christmas. It's now looking like January time. And as you know, Michael Gove is now the Secretary of State for a department called DLUC, which is the Department for Levelling Up Houses and Communities, which is the kind of new department after MHCLG. So we're looking to see what that white paper says. But I think Gove is very much in favour of this bidding approach. So I can't see that changing. So I think you're right. I think the levelling up fund kind of agenda will be going forward, and we're obviously gearing up as other local authorities are to get as much funding of that as possible for key projects in our areas. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, that's really, really useful. And I think Cowes also had a successful bid, didn't they, on the levelling up fund for the
they did indeed. They did
great.
indeed. It's a mixed use development scheme there. Yes, exactly, which is really, again really important for Cowes and for the maritime economy and Red Funnel. Yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, no, it's important to be positive about that sort of thing. It also emphasises the need to work together across the region rather than necessarily being too diverse and competing against each other, which I think is very counterproductive. And it's completely off point, so I will stop now. Sorry, Lorna.
It's no problem. It's no problem. But I liked your final point. That's why we're all here, Hugh. And it's Maritime UK Solent. And once I'm allowed to take us on tour and we can go and visit sites, I'll make sure that we're covering the whole patch. Once we're finally allowed to do that, people keep sending me meetings saying, you know, when you're able to do that, come to us, come and see our site. And I can't wait. I'm telling you, I just can't wait. I'm going to have a bus with it all plastered across the side. Not really, no fun with that. I think what's comforting, and I understand your concerns in your comments, Hugh. I think what's comforting is there's undoubtedly masses happening in the Solent, whether it's to do with the levelling up, whether it's the application into the Institute of Technology, whether it's the work that the Freeport, whether it's the stuff that's going on at Fawley Waters. I mean, there's just so much going on in the region. The outlook for, personally, I think the outlook for the Solent is really strong and really rosy. And I think the more people work together, and this is just one forum where we come together once a month, and my cat normally interrupts us and all the rest of it, but the strength and the collaboration that comes from the partners that attend these meetings, it gives us something, it gives us a springboard, doesn't it, to be doing other things. And the incorporation of Maritime UK Solent, that's really important. And you'll start to see, you'll get some information about that in the new year. I'm hoping that we'll be able to do an update on that and maybe introduce some of the board members, etc., in the February meeting. So there's really positive things coming, and we shared that video in August on the anniversary of us having had our first networking meeting, and there was a quote in it from Ken Hickling. And he just said, you know, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, I don't know anyone else in this pool, and I need to know all of you. And that has stayed with me. And each time we do one of these meetings, we all learn a little bit more about what's going on in the maritime sector locally. So I hope we all continue to find that useful. Kate, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
I'm going to have to shoot off. Thank you very much, everyone.
But thank you for persevering with all the various ways
you for your patience
to get into the meeting. It's much appreciated. I don't know what's going on with the LEP computers this morning, but anyway.
Lorna, it's Richard Powell. Can I just make one comment? Building what you just said then. You know, this is the first time I've attended this meeting. I know a number of you. By way of introduction, my full-time job is working for QinetiQ as one of the directors there, but I actually sit chair one of the councils of the Society of Maritime Industries, and heavily involved in the National Shipbuilding Strategy, and also chairman of Portsdown Marine. So I'm all over the maritime business. And I just want to build on what you said there, Lorna, about the potential about the maritime domain, because the government policy is really interesting on this. And the National Shipbuilding Strategy is going to be delayed to the new year, which is a shame, but we got understandably why. But that's going to be a significant piece of work, which is really going to sort of supercharge the maritime industry. And it's not just shipbuilding. It's slightly mistitled. It should be the National Shipbuilding Enterprise, because it's going to look right across the whole of the industry, and particularly focus on skills. And the reason it's important is because the government's woken up to the fact that the maritime industry in the UK is larger than the car and aviation industries combined. This is why there's so much input behind it, and both those industries are in trouble. And they're not suddenly going to get better. And I think the main point here is that whilst the government's going to set the framework, it's up to organisations like this and Solent MEZ and all the local to deliver, because the government can't deliver. They can set the conditions in which it's going to be delivered. So it is going to be really exciting. but there's work for us to do on all of this. So just building on what you said there, Lorna, from a government perspective.
Absolutely. Tip of the iceberg is what we've managed so far. But
yeah,
there's
I couldn't agree more. There's so much to do. But also so much potential. There's also so much potential, because I think one of the other things we've forgotten in this country is that we're one of the few nations in the world which has the full spectrum of maritime capabilities, and by that I mean from warships to super yachts to finance to legislation to the whole certification piece. Very few countries in the world have that full spectrum, and that's a jewel in the crown, but also backed up with an incredible reputation. You know, we actually, if you take a moment to reflect, we should be much bigger and better than this, but somehow we got seduced by the industry. So I think it's going to be an amazing decade coming up for the maritime industry.
Absolutely.
This is Brett. I hope you don't mind, Lorna, me butting in. I'd like to concur with both Mark, Hugh and Richard. We've been working together, obviously, this last year in this group. And Lorna, from a personal point of view, I'd like to thank you for pulling this group together this past year. It hasn't been easy. We haven't been able to attend everything, but we've done the best we can with the resource we've got. But one of the things that's clear is that there is a huge sway with, I think, with all of us about collaboration and actually having no fear, so that, if Philip's got something that works for Philip and it came to Fawley Waterside, I'd be very happy to pass that over to Philip or to somewhere else. I think that the way to grow this is by continuing in these groups, is potentially meeting in the future, and as soon as we can, we'd be happy to do that too. But these groups, or these action groups, are a call to action, so that we work collaboratively, we make our case to government collectively, and we get this money that we require to create jobs and homes, etc., across the line. And I think that together as well, that we can make maritime sexy. Pam was talking about the developments at the university, and of course we're aware all the work of Dan Hook. Well, you could argue, yes, you need data analysts, but also you need gamers, because if we're going to have autonomous fleets, then the guys that would be driving those could be ex-gamers. So there's all sorts of work that we have to do, but I'm convinced this Maritime UK Solent Group and the MEZ and others is the way to drive our collective ambition together to government. And thanks for that, Lorna.
No problem. Thank you for your kind words. That's super. Any other comments before I move on? I'm not seeing any other hands up. Hugh's got a thumb up this time, but that's not a hand up. So I'm going to take that just as a supportive message. Okay. Oh, sorry. Was there something else you wanted to say, Hugh?
No, I was agreeing. Definitely, just a supportive message, supporting what Brett said.
Fantastic. Right, and on that, in fact, there's a really nice link there to what Nikki's going to talk about. So Nikki Smith works for Solent LEP. She has also had connectivity problems this morning, but happily she's with us now. So Nikki, can I hand over to you? We'll just monitor the connection and see how it works.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Lorna. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've had some major issues this morning. I'm still saying it's a little bit unstable, but fingers crossed we'll get through the short presentation that I have today. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, if that's okay. Okay, sorry, just bear with me. Let's get rid of that. Sorry, just bear with me. I can't. My apologies. My apologies there, having a few issues. Just with so thank you so much, as I said already, for allowing me to join you today. Works. So as you are all aware, there have been some real challenges at the moment with Read Under, and the landscape is continually moving from day to day. These challenges can bring up all sorts of business issues that can leave you feeling really, really isolated. Are you a business decision maker? You wondering how other people in your sector are actually managing those challenges? The government has actually realised that some of these challenges have common themes, and so they've developed a national programme called the Peer Networks Programme. It is fully funded by the government. The peer networks have been developed to allow businesses to discuss those challenges faced by businesses like yourself on a facilitated platform. The network itself consists of 11 like-minded business owners or decision makers discussing and helping each other to overcome the challenges that affect them and their business. The peer networks is delivered in hours. Each session lasting around 2 to 3 hours, and it's every 3 weeks or so, but that is actually dictated by the facilitators, who will discuss that with you if you do decide that this is the route for you. On top of those 18 hours action learning, you'll also receive 3.5 hours of one-to-one support from a business coach. And this time used to focus on anything in particular, any particular project or challenge that you would like additional support with. So it might be something that you've brought up in one of the sessions, and actually you feel it's not deep enough for you and you need to concentrate on that. Alternatively, you can use that time to develop skills. So how does it work then? So before the start of the consider any challenges that you would like support with and ask you to bring those along. Your challenge is then discussed amongst the participants, enabling you to draw on knowledge and experiences of the wider group. So if you can imagine having 10 other to give you their views and their experiences of what's happened, and you can pull on all of that knowledge. Topics of discussion are really led by you, the participants. So it could be anything from marketing, decarbonisation, anything that you want to discuss, you can actually discuss there in that platform. You may be asking yourself then, what's in it for you? Well, we did run the programme last year, and we are now seeing that we've had several businesses working collaboratively together. So interestingly, what you said just earlier on about working in collaboration, they're working on various projects. You do have the opportunity for continued support between the participants, not just from your cohort, but from all of the businesses that have participated on the peer networks. I've set up an alumni group on LinkedIn, which allows you to attend and to continually, have those inputs and those discussions. Sorry. So I just wanted to put up there just some comments made by previous participants. And interestingly, thinking back to Kate's slide about some of the people that the maritime people that we've supported, RS Aqua, Red Penguin, etc. All of those have actually participated on the peer networks. Some of what will I get from that, it really wouldn't benefit me. But actually the core business challenges are all the same regardless of the sector you're in. So actually sharing it with each other will help you overcome any of those particular challenges. So we are this year, as last year, step back. Last year we ran a marine and maritime cohort, and we ran it very successfully. We did run 10 cohorts last year of mixed sectors. This year we've been awarded 14, and we have been asked to present nationally because it is a national programme for best practice. We kind of feel that we've got it right. 95% satisfaction survey that's come back from those that attended last. This year, we'd really like the opportunity to set up another marine and maritime today. Anybody that might be interested, or certainly interested in, then please do drop me a line at nikki.smith@solent.org.uk, or alternatively, if you would like to go on to the Solent